Good morning, my dear students. Today, again, we continue with Nagamandala, the Indo-Anglian drama by the Kannada writer Girish Karnad. And yesterday, I have sent you some PDFs, and I am sure that you have gone through them. And so you may have got an average idea of the drama. You understood the characters in the play, and then the important themes that are treated in the play. Again, you may have noticed the file Indianness in Nagamandala. Actually, the whole story centers around the Indian society, a typical Indian family. And Karnad actually holds a mirror to the Indian society. And here in this particular play, he is talking about the Indian woman, the miserable condition of the Indian woman through the character of Rani, the heroine. How much she is humiliated, how much she is tortured, how much she has to suffer because of her cruel husband. Everything is well portrayed in the play. And so, this is a play on feminism. This is a play where we realize the injustice meted out to an average Indian woman. The Indian woman in the husband's family, she is treated like a slave. She has to do all the work at home, and she is not getting any payment, or she is not even getting any gratitude from the members of the family. And I will be doing the drama in detail, and then you will understand the points better. Just understand that the heroine of the play, Rani, and her husband, they are not an isolated family in India. Or actually, the story of Rani is the story of an average Indian woman in the Indian society, where male domination is there throughout. A man is counted to be of a superior standard, and the woman is counted to be of an inferior stuff. And in majority of the families, Karnad notices that between the husband and the wife, there exists a master-slave relationship. And the irony is that the wife is not offended even when she is tortured, even when she is humiliated. She suffers everything because she feels that it is her duty. And so, again, a mythical structure is used by Karnad. I told you in the introductory class, Karnad's fascination for folk tales, his great fascination for drama. And so, here he makes use of the Indian folklore, some folk tales told to him by the great poet A.K. Ramanujan. Based on these folk tales, the story of Rani is written. And so, again, these are the different aspects of the play, but again, we will go back from the beginning of the play. So, before evaluating the play from different angles, you should understand the play in detail. And so, I will give you a summary of the whole play. And after that, we will critically analyze the play from different angles. And so, in the last class, we have just started with the discussion of the prologue. Remember, this play Nagamandala has a two-layer structure. And the first layer is a prologue. And then you have the second layer. Two acts are there, Act 1 and Act 2. And so, the prologue of the play is the outer setting of the play. Or, in this prologue, which comes before Act 1, it's only 2 pages are there for the prologue. But you are introduced to a new form of drama. And here, the prologue begins like this. An author, a playwright, comes to a ruined theatre to spend the time there, the night there. It is about to be very dark. And so he comes there. And then naturally, the audience, they are curious to know why this man comes there in the evening in that lonely, isolated temple. And then the reason is given. This playwright was used to writing boring plays, and for that God has punished him with an untimely death, and he got the information from a sannyasi. The sannyasi told the author that he will die if he cannot keep himself awake for one full night before the end of that month. Because the audience with great expectations, they had come to the theatre to see the plays of this particular author. But the stories were very boring. They were disappointed and the audience will be sleeping throughout. Thus, they have wasted their time and energy. And so, the playwright got a curse from the heavens. And the only solution that is suggested by the sannyasi is that if the playwright can spend one whole night without sleeping, without even winking his eye, he will be saved. And after getting this information, the man tried a lot, but he will be sleeping throughout. And so, finally, the last day of the month came. And this is the particular day where the play begins. The man was sure that he will die that night because he will definitely sleep. And he doesn't want to die in front of his family members. And so he comes to this ruined temple. And then he is sitting there in the corner of a temple. And so when the curtain rises, you will see a sad, dejected playwright sitting in the corner of the stage. And again, from the location, it is clear that it is a ruined temple. And then suddenly, he hears some noises. Actually, when you analyze the play structurally, in the prologue part, you will see a fusion of 4 stories clubbed together. The first story is the story of the author who is waiting in the temple, trying to keep awake the night. This is the first story. And the second story is the story, the gossip type of tale made by the flames, actually personified flames, who comes to the temple that night. And so I told you, 4 stories are condensed to form the prologue. The first is that of the author. Second, some personified flames are coming to the temple. And the playwright hides behind the pillar. He wanted to know what they are doing, why they have come there. And so the flames were very happy. And 2 of them, they were talking. And then they are making a type of gossip. And the first flame told the other, I am the flame in a house where the master of the house has an old mother. The mother was very sick, very old, very sick, about to die. And so there were wounds over her body, and there was a foul smell in the room. And so there should be light in the room throughout. And so day and night the flame has to remain in the mother's room. But this particular morning the old mother died. And so the master put out the flame, and now the flame escapes and comes to the ruined temple. Hope you have understood the story of the flames. Actually, unbelievable, incredible characters are presented on the stage. This is a technique of the Kannada writer Karnaj. I told you that he uses such a mythical framework, and more than that, he makes use of the epic theatre technique. And then there are 4 stories clubbed together in the prologue part. And then 2 flames have arrived. One said that it has escaped from the room of the dead lady, and it has come to the temple. And then the other flame, the second one, told the first that it was the flame of a house where the master of the house was very stingy. He will buy only very little oil. And so at midnight, by midnight, the oil was over, and so they have to put out the flame. And so the second flame also escaped and comes to the ruined temple. And so this is the second story. And while the flames were talking, a third flame comes. And the third flame, first of all, tells sorry. Oh, I am late, my dear friends. And then the flame explains the reason why it was late. And the flame says that he was also the flame of a particular house where an old couple was living. They were all alone, no children were there, and one day there was a great quarrel in the house. On this particular day, actually, between the husband and the wife, there was a big quarrel. The reason is that the wife, after completing her work, she finishes off her work in the kitchen and then locks the kitchen and comes to the bedroom so that she can have an afternoon nap. And when she was about to reach the bedroom, she saw a beautiful young lady wearing a sari going out of her husband's room. And this old lady chased, she was rather middle-aged. The middle-aged lady tried to chase that young lady, but she couldn't. The young lady escaped. And the angry old lady comes back to her husband, shouting at him. telling him that, oh, I know that you are keeping that beautiful girl with you. Are you not ashamed? And so on. And the poor husband said, I haven't seen anybody. There was nobody in the house. I haven't seen anybody. And then they started quarreling. But actually, it was not a real woman. It was a story. Actually, story is personified as flames are personified, isn't it? And so I told you the technique of epic theatre, a type of distancing between the actors on the stage and the audience. Audience should get the message of the play, but they should not emotionally mix up with the characters on the stage. That is the technique. And so this woman, the young lady, is story personified. And from where this story comes. This is it. This old lady, or rather middle-aged lady, the wife, she knows a beautiful story, or she was keeping a beautiful story and a melodious song in her mind. She won't share it to anybody. And the story and the song was suffocating within her mind. And this particular day, this lady was sleeping with the mouth open. And then what happened? This story escaped through the mouth of the lady. The story comes out, song also comes out. And the story took the shape of a young girl, a beautiful girl. And the song becomes her sari. And the story and the song were rushing out of the house. And at that time, this lady had seen them and thought that she is some mistress of her husband. And so, this story tells the flame that she is actually angry with this old lady for keeping the story in the heart for such a long time without sharing it with anybody outside. And so the husband and the wife were quarreling, and this story escapes. And the third flame meets her, and the flame brings this story to this ruined temple. That is why the third flame was lit. And this is the third story. And then you have the fourth story. What is the fourth story? That is, this story is telling the real story. What is that? This author who was hiding behind the pillar comes out, and then he holds the story and tells her, you tell the story. And then the story asks the man, I will tell you, but will you share it with others? Then the playwright is in a dilemma. He says that if the story is very, very interesting, I will be able to keep myself awake this night. And if I am alive, I will share your story with others. And so the story is happy, and she started telling this mysterious tale of Rani and Apanna. And so this is the prologue. Hope you have understood. This is the outer layer. Before Act 1, you have the prologue in 2 pages, where you have a man, an author or a playwright, then the speaking flames, the story and a song. And now these 4 stories are clubbed together, compressed together to form the outer layer. And then here towards the last part, you will see story agreeing to tell the story to all of them. And then the story tells the playwright that it is a really interesting story and he will not sleep at all that night. And there, prologue is over and we move on to Act 1. And so this is the outer layer of Nagamandala. And after this comes the story of Rani and Appanna. And always remember that Rani and Appanna, they are not an isolated couple, but they stand for a typical Indian couple in an Indian society. I told you, Karnad is holding a mirror to the Indian society. He knows how an Indian woman is tortured, humiliated, how she is treated as a slave. She has to work throughout the day. She has to she has to take care of the house. She has to clean the house, do every work. But she doesn't get the proper recognition. And here again, Rani, you will understand that she is such a beautiful girl, the only girl of her parents. In Act 1, we analyze the story of Rani. That is Rani, the 18-year-old girl. She is married to a man called Appanna. In Kannada, Appanna means a common man. That means this man is not different from any other man in that place. An ordinary man by name Appanna. How a very cruel man he is. And again, the irony is that the parents of Rani, when they had this proposal, when they heard about this proposal of Appanna for their only daughter, they didn't care to check the details of the bridegroom. They didn't go to his place to make enquiries about him. The father tells the mother, the young man is very rich and the parents are dead. This is the only information that they know. The man is rich, and so they takes for granted that their daughter will be very happy there. And so the innocence of these parents. They thought that Rani will be happy there. And again, there is lot of negligence. You can see that from the very first day, Rani is ill-treated by her husband. He used to lock her in the room and he goes out every day to spend time with his concubine, that is his mistress. He treats Rani as a slave. He tells her, don't ask me questions. I will give you orders and you have to obey that. I will tell you to do this and that, and you have to do it without any complaint. And Rani has to stay alone at night. Only during lunchtime he will come. He wants the lunch. He wanted his house to be neat and clean. And again, not even a kind word will come from Appanna. And again, you can see that Rani has no grudge towards Appanna at all. She feels that being a woman, she has to suffer everything. And again, Rani is very much scared to leave alone at night because the house was in the middle of a forest. Yet she manages. And so in Act 1, we will see in detail the story of Rani. How Appanna ill-treats her. Every day he locks Rani in the room and goes out to spend the time with his concubine. And then Rani will be crying alone in the house, but at the same time she is afraid of her husband. She will be doing all the work, finishes off every work, then prepare nice food. Then the next day he will come. Only at noontime the husband will come. Then he will eat lunch and goes out, again locking the door. And actually, Appanna is a symbol of male chauvinism. That is, he is adulterous. He goes after another lady, but he won't allow any freedom to his wife. And we will examine Act 1 and then what happens to Rani. And in Act 1, two other characters comes. One is Kuridava, a blind lady, and her son Kapanna. In Kannada, Kapanna means dark colored or black colored. But this Kapanna is not black, he is fair complexioned. but the mother is blind. Everything is dark before her. And so she thought that her son also is black in color. And so she calls him Kapanna. And this Kuridava is the friend of Appanna's mother, a very kind old lady. And so in Act 1, you have Rani, her cruel husband Appanna. Then you have Kuridava, the blind woman, a very loving woman, and her only son, Kapanna. And we will see this Act 1 in detail in the next class, and again we will evaluate it and then pass on to Act 2. And so for the time being, we will stop. Thank you.